Hey everybody, so I'm on the trail and I wanted to talk about allowing for spontaneity. And sometimes we need to get done our, let's say, mandatory tasks or to-do list so that we can carve out blocks of time on our calendar for those time spans or blocks of time for spontaneity. So just wanted to share just a quick how that might look, and again, to find gratitude in these, unusual moments, if you will. So, just kind of leaping over a mud pile there. So I had to do an oil change today. And so that was, quote, a scheduled task. And, so I arrived early and, gave the instructions for what I wanted to check on my vehicle. And then, I mapped out, okay, well, where am I in proximity to where I'm getting, the service done on my car, and, what coffee shops and restaurants are walking distance. So I ended up going to an unusual spot, a spot that I haven't been to in ages, which is a Friendly's restaurant. Most of them have gone out of business, but this one was still around. And so I was walking on my way towards that. And again, because I'm in a block of time of unscheduled time, I don't know exactly when my car is going to be done. I'm waiting for it to be done, but I don't know the exact time. And so as I'm waiting, I start walking towards this restaurant, and because I'm walking, I'm at a slower pace. I'm noticing the sounds, the sights, I'm noticing the smells because I'm walking instead of driving. When you go at a slower pace, you start to notice things with your five senses in a different way. That is, if you're paying attention. So as I'm paying attention to my five senses, I walk by and there's a guy on his driveway and his chocolate lab dog is, outside, and the guy is facing in a different direction. But it's like, as I'm walking by, the dog sensed my presence and, knew that I like dogs. And it was like, this dog was like wagging his tail and he was so happy. And I'm just like walking by, but I'm in my happy mode. I'm in like my presence mode, right? And because I'm exuding that, right, the dog picked up on my positive energy and the dog starts wagging his tail. And then the guy turns around to look, why is my dog wagging his tail? And he looks at me and he's like, oh, good morning, And it's like, sometimes that little tiny moment of, a dog noticing you, a person noticing you, good morning to a stranger. We used to be in a society where this was the norm. We used to offer pleasantries and good morning, how you doing today? That used to be part of our culture. And sometimes we're so looking at our phones or heavily distracted with whatever's going on that we're not even present to what's actually going on. But when you allow for these blocks of time for spontaneity and you slow down, you start to notice people. You start to connect person to person, like we were intended to be part of community and humanity, not in a hurry all the time and being rude and obnoxious to people, right? So then when I get into the Friendlies, it's like, the woman greets me and it's like a genuine greeting. She's actually present for her job. She is very attentive, and, my bill was so minimal, okay? I got one French toast and one egg and a coffee, a very small bill. I wasn't trying to spend a lot of money. I knew I was going to be there for a little time, waiting for the car. And I also know I'm going to tip very well while I'm in that space, because, I'm taking up that table. And yet there were like 3 tables in the entire restaurant. That's it. Okay. So very quiet. And even with the 3 tables, that waitress was so kind, so attentive, kept refilling my coffee cup. And, what I'm getting at is that type of attentiveness in today's age is rare. It used to be the norm, but now that type of attentiveness is rare. And so when I come back to saying, when you allow yourself these time blocks of spontaneity so that you can slow down and you're not like super scheduled, you start to notice people and you start to pay attention and show up with people and communicate heart to heart in a different way than when you're always overscheduled and in a hurry. And, I was, spreading out my calendar and my paperwork and my to-do list, and I was trying to catch up on documenting things that I needed to document. And so, I'm focused on accomplishing the task while I'm, trying to be productive, as I'm waiting for my car to be finished. And the waitress came back and she's like, hey, I was just wondering, like, what do you do that you have this block of time? And it was interesting. She was like, she said this block of time, and like, I'm here talking to you about blocks of time, right? And she was like, what do you do? And I said, I'm a life coach. And I said, and sorry, I'm looking down. I'm making sure I don't step in a mud pile here. And I said, I'm waiting for my car to get repaired, for an oil change. And so I just wanted to, get some paperwork done and be productive while I'm here, because I really can't, have my normal phone calls here in a public place, but I can handle some other busy tasks, And she was like, wow. She's like, that's really interesting. I'm, and then she shared about her birthday coming up and that her son was going to get her, a day at the salon to get her hair done, and that she was so excited to have her hair done. And, I'm guessing, I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing this woman was in her 70s, okay? And for someone to, number one, be still holding a job at a Friendly's as a waitress, and to have genuine caring, genuine enthusiasm, genuine good service, attentive service, I just really want to commend her. I mean, it's just amazing when you have that kind of experience. And her name was Sue. And so, shout out to Sue at the Friendly's. And then she was like, I need to actually step out. Do you think you could handle your bill? I said, oh, absolutely. She's like, you don't have to leave. You don't have to hurry. She's like, I'm just going to run an errand and come back. And I said, yeah, no problem. And, the point is, like, when you see someone who is just genuinely a human being, it just really, it like restores your hope in humanity amidst all of the other negative images and attitudes and, non-service that we receive on the norm. And it helps you believe that there really are people that care. There really are people that genuinely want to be service-oriented people. And that it's not about the money. It really isn't. The tip that she technically would have gotten was like $2. And I gave her $5. And what I'm getting at is that, people, it doesn't take a lot of extra busyness to be present. And I think that's the point I'm trying to make, that, you know, when you carve out blocks of time for non-appointments, to just be present, to just be spontaneous, to just allow life to just be, then I think that you connect with people on a deeper level. And so then by the time I got back to the mechanic, there's another person in front of me, and they were from New York, and they were commenting how gracious they were and how attentive the service was at my mechanic, because they're used to really poor service in New York. And so it was just so interesting that I had experienced such great service at the Friendlies. And then I walk into the mechanic where they're being complimented in that exact moment on their great service, right? And then when it's my turn and I'm, paying my bill, and, there's no major problems. There's just a simple, to get the oil change done. And again, the secretary was so pleasant. She was so sweet. And, and I said, is there any chance I could get this receipt, from, this one thing so I can submit it for reimbursement? And she's like, no problem. But not only does she give me the one receipt that I asked for, she's like, I think you mentioned that you had a flood or something and you lost your paperwork on your van. She's like, I printed out everything that you need on your van that we've worked on for you here at the shop. That's service. That's somebody actually being attentive and listening and caring. So there are people like that out there, okay? It's just they're more of the diamond in the rough. That's more of the rare experience nowadays, but it does exist. And so my encouragement to you today is, number one, to slow down and to create blocks of time where you have nothing scheduled and you're just going to allow yourself to just be and let the day unfold. Notice the five senses. Notice the people, the animals, the conversations. Like, be present with who shows up and genuinely give of yourself to that person in that moment. Like, really listen. Like, how often do you really have a conversation with your server and care about what's going on in their life? Like, you can do that. It doesn't take that much effort to do it. And yet, how many people fail to really communicate and really connect? So my encouragement to you is to slow down, create blocks of time for spontaneity and for just being present in the moment, and see what happens. And when you have one of those aha moments, or you experience something really amazing, comment below of what little positive thing happened to you by, having that snapshot of time, that block of time, that being present in spontaneity. Have a good one. Bye.